What's going on, everybody? How is everybody doing this Friday? I hope you're doing well. I hope you are not tired of winning, because we have a lot more winning to go. I hope you're not bored with winning. We are live on Periscope, and we're also live on YouTube. Just want to let you know, if you are if you're having trouble with this broadcast on Periscope, you can do it on YouTube. We're live over there on the channel, and my last broadcast, I tried to download it and upload it to YouTube, and it did not work real well. And I tried for 12 hours to render a video from my Periscope broadcast onto YouTube, and I couldn't get it to work. So we're live on YouTube today. So anyway, haven't been on YouTube in a while. Normally I just do Q broadcasts there and some of my news updates. But how is everybody on YouTube? Jay and Ann and Rosebuds and Kathy, good to see everybody on here. Got a lot of stuff to cover. A lot of information I want to cover. So, Mark and Clarice, Victoria, how's everybody doing? Cool. Glad to see everybody here on YouTube and on Periscope. My original plan when I started doing live broadcasts was to do live broadcasts on YouTube, Periscope, and Facebook simultaneously. It's a little difficult to do 3 live streams at once, but I'm going to do the best I can. All right, so got a bunch of things I want to cover, and just came out something about Jerry Nadler. Poor Representative Jerry Nadler, who so badly wants Trump impeached, along with Adam Schiff, Maxine Waters. They would all of Trump's enemies would love to see him impeached. However, they have very little chance of seeing that happen. Hang on a sec. Everyone's screaming about volume on YouTube. There is, hang on a second. Bear with me a minute. All right, YouTubers, how's my volume now? Is that better on YouTube? I just plugged in a mic to see if we can get better volume on YouTube. Is that better? Sound is good? Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Trying something new. I'm using Denise's mobile device, and I don't normally broadcast with her device. So anyway, so Jerry Nadler this afternoon, depending on where you're at, has said he believes there is cause to impeach Trump, but the public is not aware of it. The public doesn't support impeaching Trump because they're not aware of the alleged crimes that Trump has supposedly committed. So Nadler is saying he needs to have investigations, he needs to have a hearing so they can bring out the information, so they can red pill the public, so they can impeach the president. Because you can't very well impeach the president if you don't have public support. So Nadler and Nancy Pelosi, I don't know if Nancy is supporting this, Nadler wants to have more public hearings so that they can get information out there that will hopefully reveal crimes of President Trump. Of course, their Mueller investigation didn't work. There were no crimes. Mueller trots out there a couple days ago. And I think Mueller's press conference was probably designed to continue to give them a reason to call for impeachment. And that's just my feeling. So it is interesting because we are in an information war. This is, in every respect, it's an information war. People like Adam Schiff and Nadler are trying to get information into the public consciousness that makes Trump look evil. And of course, what the president is doing, he is going to declassify all these documents related to the investigation into him and his campaign, right? So Trump is going to declassify all these documents. What is the purpose of declassification? The purpose of declassification is to make public all the information that people need to see the corruption in the intelligence agencies, the FBI, the CIA, the Obama White House, how they colluded, right? So they accused Trump of collusion, and they were colluding themselves. And declassification is going to demonstrate factually so that people can see the documents. People are going to see the intelligence briefing, information that was given to the House Intelligence Committee. The information that Adam Schiff and Devin Nunes had when they were briefed on this situation, we're going to see the same things they saw. There will be some redactions to protect sources and methods and anything that's in an ongoing investigation, grand jury matters. But the president is declassifying things to make the public aware of what happened. So you have the president's enemies trying to get information out, and their hearings are to try to further smear Trump. Declass is going to help us. It's going to help give us a can share with our friends so we can red pill people and let them know just how corrupt the enemies of the president have been over the last couple of years. All right. Speaking of declass, interesting thing. So the Attorney General Barr did a press conference. Not a press conference. He did an interview. And little bits of that interview were released last night. I believe the full interview is going to be released today. It's a CBS interview. The transcript was released this morning. I'm going to read some things from the transcript. One of the interesting things from the transcript is the interviewer asked Barr about declassification. And Barr said, I asked the president if I could be given authority to request declassification. All right. So Barr said it was his idea to ask Trump if he could be given authorization to declassify whatever he wanted. And he told Trump, tell the heads of all the intelligence agencies and the Defense Department and Department of Energy and every other agency, you tell them they have to cooperate with me. Whatever I ask to be declassified, you tell them I have authorization to declassify it. And Barr told this in this interview that he specifically went to Trump and said, I want authority to declassify anything I feel is necessary, and I want you to tell those agency heads they have to cooperate with me. That was why the declass came about, because Barr went to Trump and said, this is what I want. At least that's what Barr is saying. He's saying it was his idea to go. Now look, Barr started out as an attorney with the CIA back in the 70s. Barr knows how the intelligence agencies work. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff here. In fact, let me go into some of Barr's comments. I want to make a couple of comments about something that Barr said, a couple of things that Barr said. I'm already getting messages from people who are concerned and they're fearful because Barr said that he did not consider what these guys did as treason. All right. Now, people are already messaging me. They're freaking out because, Barr said it's not treason. And hang on a second. My Periscope broadcast maybe froze up. I don't know. You guys with me on Periscope? All right. So, hey, honey. You're not on Periscope, are you? Do you have your phone handy? Can you check to see if the Periscope broadcast is dead? Because it's frozen on my screen. And I can't tell if it's still live or not. All right. So I hate to bother you, but I just need to know if the Periscope isn't responding. All right. Nope. Hang on a second. YouTubers, we're going to restart on Periscope. The broadcast went DOA. That is why I can't do three live streams, probably. Oh. You can't be watching live because I'm now going live again. Whoa, that's too far. All right. Sorry about that. We are back live on Periscope. Technology freezes up. All right. So, as I was saying, Barr has said publicly it was his idea to do the declassification this way. Normally, when documents are declassified, it goes through the Office of Director of National Intelligence. And the DNI decides what is going to be declassified, how it's going to be redacted, right? And it didn't happen that way. Because this is primarily about prosecution of crimes, Trump and Barr decided the declassification authority goes to the Attorney General. He is going to prosecute, and he needs to have the authority to look into any documents that he wants. So he told Trump, tell the agency heads they have to cooperate with me. All right. Got some more comments from Barr here. And it's a pretty lengthy interview, covers a lot about the Mueller investigation and things of that nature. I'm not going to go into that because I don't think that information is all that helpful. There is, all right, now, people have been concerned about Chris Wray. And I'm going to point you to an article. This is an article that Q posted, a link to it, back on April 10th, I think, if I'm remembering this correctly. Because the date of the article is April 10th. It's a Fox article, and it's when Barr was testifying before Congress and told Congress he believes spying did occur. You remember all this outrage, fake outrage really, about Barr's use of the word spying. Spying has been used by the media and people forever, and no one's ever had a problem with it, right? Barr did make an interesting comment in this article. All right, and this is a quote from Barr. This is not launching an investigation of the FBI, Barr stressed. Frankly, to the extent that there were issues at the FBI, I do not view it as a problem of the FBI. I think it was primarily a failure of the group of leaders, the upper echelons of the FBI. I think the FBI is an outstanding organization. I'm very pleased that Director Chris Wray is there. Wait a minute. Barr is saying that he's very pleased that Director Chris Wray is there. All right. He added, if it becomes necessary to look over former officials, I expect to rely on Chris Wray and work with him. I have an obligation to make sure that government power is not abused, and I think that's one of the principal roles of the Attorney General. All right. So that is just a little snippet of what Barr said about Chris Wray. Now, a lot of people have been concerned because there have been statements about Chris Wray in the media where people are expressing concern that Chris Wray is not cooperating with Barr, that other department heads are not cooperating with Barr. And I'm going to tell you, this is really a lot of concern trolling, is what it is. You have people in the media who are trying to get clicks, they're trying to get follows, and they're trying to get you to hang on their every word. And the way they do that is they get you concerned unnecessarily that something is not right, something's going wrong, Chris Wray's not cooperating with the investigation. Chris Wray's hiding information. He's not giving Barr the information he wants. You've heard, if you've been paying attention, you've heard all this. All right. And, right. So some of that is in context of Barr saying that he has been questioning people at the FBI and the DOJ. And he says, some of the things I'm hearing are not hanging together. They're not making sense. I'm not getting answers that make everything add up, which is his way of saying, look, there's people that are hiding things and they're making excuses and they're obfuscating. All right. And he talks again about he says, I think it's primarily a failure of the old leadership in the upper echelon who kind of screwed up. It's not the rank and file. All right. And then Barr says, small group, senior level, I don't view it as a bureau-wide issue, and I say the same thing for other intelligence agencies. They're being very cooperative and helping us. And the interviewer says they're being cooperative, and Barr said yes. All right. And so Barr confirmed to her that heads of other agencies are cooperating with his investigation. Then we have this word treason. And she asked, do you think that the people that you're talking about committed treason? And Barr says, as a lawyer, I always interpret the word treason, not colloquially, but legally. And you know, there's a very specific criteria for treason, so I don't think it's actually implicated in the situation we have now. She says, you don't think they committed treason? Barr says, no, not as a legal matter. But you have concerns about the way they conducted the investigation of Trump. He says, yes, but when you're dealing with an official government contact, intent is frequently a murky issue. So I already have people this morning sending me messages saying, that's it, this whole treason thing is off, because Barr is not willing to say publicly that he said that he believes these people are guilty of treason. All right. So again, we come back to the question of optics. Everyone was jumping on Chris Wray and calling him a deep state traitor because he would not publicly, in front of Congress, say that he believes spying occurred. Chris Wray basically said, I wouldn't call it that. I would call it surveillance. And people lost their minds because Chris Wray would not tell a bunch of his enemies in Congress that spying occurred. He would not back up Barr. All right. If you do not understand optics, you're going to be lost in all of this. This is all a game of optics. You cannot come. Just think about this. If you were the mainstream media and you asked Barr, do you think treason occurred? And Barr said, you know what? I think Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Page are all guilty of treason. I can't wait to see them executed. What would America say if their attorney general heard him say that? What would the press say if Barr told everybody, I think they committed treason and I think they're going to be executed? Now, that's what a lot of people want to hear. But the Attorney General of the United States cannot do that. He can't go out publicly and say, even if he's thinking it, even if he has seen the evidence, even if he knows that these people could be tried for treason, he can't say that publicly. All right? For the same reason Chris Wray could not say publicly all the things that people wanted him to say, because optics are huge. You can't go and just blow this whole thing up. You have to wait for it to roll out. Now, Trump can talk about treason all he wants, because Trump is not an attorney. Trump is not a prosecutor. Trump is a president. All right? Trump can say whatever he wants. If Barr says the word treason, people are going to say, wait a minute, we have to go to 18 USC and we have to look up the definition of treason and see what is he talking about. And frankly, look, a lot of these, we don't know what these people are going to be charged with ultimately. We don't know. And it doesn't matter. They will evaluate, they'll figure out whether it's conspiracy to overthrow the government, sedition, treason. It is not for us to decide, and it's not actually for Barr to decide. It's up for the U.S. attorneys who are prosecuting these cases. It's up for them to decide what the actual charges will be. The media is trying to bait Barr into saying something that they can use to further disqualify him, because the media wants to paint Barr as a partisan hack. They've already accused Barr of being the president's personal attorney, not the attorney general. And they're trying to get more information they can use against Barr to paint him as a partisan person who is only going to work for Trump, and he's not going to do what's fair and right in the best interest of the country. All right. It was a setup question, and Barr handled it perfectly. All right. So I'm just kind of going through some of these comments from Barr. He found it very interesting that the media had very little interest in looking into the origin of this investigation after Mueller's report showed no collusion. He's like, look, if a special counsel's report shows no collusion, then you have to wonder what was the evidence to begin the investigation. He goes, why is the media not interested in any of this? It just doesn't add up, right? Crawford, the interviewer, also asked Barr, did you discuss declassification with Director of National Intelligence, CIA Director Gina Haspel? He said yes. She said, what is their response? He said, they're going to be supportive. And then Barr says, I'm amused by these people who make a living disclosing classified information, including the names of intelligence operatives, wringing their hands about whether I'm going to be responsible in protecting intelligence sources and methods. If there's information that can be shared with the American people without jeopardizing intelligence sources and methods, that decision should be made. And because I will be involved in finding out what the story was, I think I'm in the best position to do that. It's very interesting because Congress has screamed and hollered at Barr because he would not release a fully redacted Mueller report. Why did Barr not release a fully redacted Mueller report? Because he has to protect sources and methods. He knows that. He has to protect ongoing grand jury matters, ongoing investigations, sources and methods. He would not break the law and release anything that would compromise sources and methods. Now, the media here is being given a chance to get declassified information at the highest level from all different agencies, and they're wringing their hands and worried because Barr might declassify something that's going to compromise sources and methods. He already showed you that he is not interested in compromising sources and methods. But, you know, the narrative changes from day to day depending on what it is you want to prove. So I found that very amusing, and he found it amusing too, that the media normally wants all the information declassified that they can get, but in this case, with the declassification of the FISA documents and things related to the investigation, they don't want to see this information. No, don't make that public. Oh, no, it's not going to be leaked to us through Adam Schiff. We don't want to see it. It's funny. All right. Some interesting remarks from Barr about his own position in the DOJ as Attorney General. I realize we live in a crazy hyper-partisan period of time, and I knew that would only be a matter of time if I was behaving responsibly and calling them as I see them, that I would be attacked because nowadays people don't care about merits and substance. What do they care about? They only care about getting their outcome. They want an outcome, and if you don't give them the outcome they want, they're going to come after you and attack you, right? And Barr knew that, and he says, any attorney general in this period is going to end up losing a lot of political capital. And I realized that that's one of the reasons that I ultimately was persuaded that I should take this job, because at my stage in life, it really doesn't make any difference. So Barr is like, I'm the honey badger. I don't care. They're going to come after me. They're going to attack me. They're going to accuse me. They're going to slander me. I don't care. I've made my career. I've made my reputation. At this point in my life, it doesn't make any difference. I don't care. So we have an attorney general who does not care how much you slander, lie, and defame him. He is going to do the right thing. That's why they're freaking out. They know Barr doesn't care about what they throw at him, and they're freaking out because he can't be bullied and badgered into doing something that he's going to do the right thing. That's it. All right, I'm going to read another thing from Barr's interview. All right, Jan Crawford, the CBS interviewer. What is the status of Huber's investigation? Isn't that what everybody wants to know about? Hey, what's up with John Huber? Right? You've been listening to, as Brendan Dilley calls them, the pessimism porn peddlers who've been telling you Huber is doing nothing. Huber is sleeping, just like Jeff Sessions was. Huber is not on the case. He's not investigating anything. All the whistleblowers who were supposed to be interviewed, none of them got interviewed, according to all these so-called insiders. All right. We're going to hear from Barr himself what is going on with Huber. All right. So she asks, what about Huber's investigation? Huber in Utah. I think the former Attorney General Sessions asked him to look into this, talking about FISA abuse. Barr said, right, so Huber had originally been asked to look at FISA applications and the electronic surveillance of Trump, but then he stood back and put that on hold while the Office of Inspector General was conducting its review. Okay, so that's normal. Huber was originally tasked to look into allegations of abuse of power and abuse of FISA with respect to the FBI and the Department of Justice during the 2016 election. Now, since Horowitz and his group, his staff of 470 people, were also tasked with looking into FISA abuses, allegations, same thing, they decided not to do a redundant investigation. Horowitz is taking care of FISA allegations. Huber was tasked with something else. What was Huber tasked with? Okay, he was essentially on standby for FISA investigation in case Horowitz needed to refer a matter to him that needed to be handled criminally. Now, the Inspector General's office does not do criminal prosecution. Inspector General does internal investigations. They determine if people have violated policy, department policy, violated protocol, violated procedures, and if they find something that needs to be remediated internally, they make internal reviews and referrals for disciplinary action within the department. It's internal affairs. It's not primarily criminal investigation. If an inspector general finds criminal behavior, they refer it to a U.S. Attorney's Office. All right. Now, when this article came out a couple days ago, report on Andrew McCabe and the fact that he had been leaking information to the press, and the fact that he took some tickets to a basketball game that was considered a form of probably bribery, not criminal. Those things are violations of department policy. There was no criminal referral, no criminal recommendation. I think that's because it was not a criminal activity. It was a violation of department policy, all right? And McCabe was already fired. So what's the point? All right, they reviewed the information, they came up with a report, McCabe is gone. They already have had grand jury information being presented against McCabe for criminal activity, and there's ongoing criminal investigations of McCabe. So a couple of days ago, people were on social media, well, look at this, the Department of Justice isn't investigating McCabe. Oh, there's no justice. Oh, there's two tiers of justice. Oh, this is unfair. And they're screaming and hollering because no one's going to be prosecuted. Nothing's going to happen, right? Well, look, if you just sit down and look at all this stuff, you'll see, think about it logically. An inspector general, what is the job of the inspector general? To do internal reviews and review department policy and procedure and violations. All right, so Barr here is explaining Horowitz's role. He's looking into allegations of FISA abuse and abuse of power in the Department of Justice and the FBI. What is Huber doing? Barr said Huber was on standby in case anything needed to be referred to him criminally for criminal prosecution. So he's telling you that as Horowitz is investigating allegations of corruption, abuse of power, abuse of the FISA system in the 2016 election, anything criminal is being referred to Huber. If it's being referred to Huber, it's being taken care of. All right. And then Barr goes on. So Huber has not been active on this front, referring to FISA investigation. In recent months, Durham took over that role. Okay, so here's what's been going on. Barr is explaining what has been happening. Horowitz and the Inspector General's office have been investigating abuse of power, corruption, and abuse of the FISA system. They were making criminal referrals to Huber. He says here, Durham took over that role a couple of months ago. Huber and other issues related to Hillary Clinton have been what Huber is taking care of. I'm just going to read this here. Horowitz referred a matter to him to be handled criminally, speaking of Huber. He has not been active on this front regarding FISA in recent months, so Durham is taking over that role. The other issues Huber has been working on relate to Hillary Clinton. Those Hillary Clinton. What is related to Hillary Clinton that Huber has been investigating? We know this because in March, I think March 10th, the Department of Justice finally released a document that a group had requested by FOIA that had to do with the investigation that Huber was doing into the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. Now, this was a letter sent by Matthew Whitaker to Huber about a week after Sessions had tasked Huber with investigating Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. Whitaker, who was Sessions' chief of staff at the time, sent a letter to Huber confirming things they had already talked about. There was a FOIA request to obtain that letter almost a year and a half ago. The FOIA request is from November of 2017. All right. That letter was not produced by the Department of Justice until the week Whitaker left the Department of Justice. Whitaker, on the way out the door, he's leaving, he's done. He tells DOJ, oh yeah, by the way, that little letter between me and Huber talking about his investigation of Clinton Foundation, Uranium One, yeah, go ahead and release that letter. So the DOJ releases the letter, Daily Beast picks up on it, all the other mainstream media pick up on this letter between Whitaker and Huber talking about his investigation of Uranium One and the Clinton Foundation. All right, I suspect Whitaker and the DOJ released that letter because they knew Huber's investigation was done. Barr said Huber has been investigating things related to the Hillary Clinton. That would be Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. All right. And Barr says those things are winding down and hopefully we'll be in a position to bring those to fruition. Ooh, bring those to fruition? What does that mean? If the Department of Justice and U.S. Attorney's offices who investigate criminal activity are going to bring something to fruition, what are they talking about? Are they talking about birthing a baby? Are they talking about they're going to finish waxing your car? Well, the Department of Justice is about enforcing the law and criminal prosecution. So when Barr says, oh, Huber's investigation is winding down and we're going to bring that to fruition, he's saying Huber's cases that he has been piling up, the sealed indictments and all that stuff, yeah, those are going to be unsealed pretty soon, and we're going to start indicting and arresting people. Bring that to fruition. That is what your Attorney General told them in this interview, which you can get the transcript on the CBS news site. So, Durham is helping Inspector General Horowitz wrap up his investigation, do some criminal referrals, because Huber was taken off. Huber was primarily focusing on Clinton Foundation stuff. Durham has been in the final stages, I believe, helping Horowitz wrap up indictments, grand jury matters having to do with FISA investigation. So, look, all this information is coming out because they're ready to drop the hammer. That hammer is coming. It's coming soon. All right. and it is too late for the bad guys to do anything about it. All right. So President Trump last night on Twitter announces he is going to be doing something unheard of. He's taking his biggest stand on Mexico so far. So we're all kind of thinking like when he announced it he did a little presser in front of Marine One yesterday morning before he went to Colorado to talk at the Air Force Academy. I'll cover that in just a second. I told you I have a lot of stuff to cover. All right. He has a presser in front of Marine One, and he tells the press, I'm going to make my biggest statement regarding the border so far. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. So Denise and I are sitting here thinking, well, what is he gonna announce? Is he gonna close the border? He's not gonna close the border. Like, is he gonna put more troops at the border? What is he gonna do? So we find out last night via Twitter, he just tweets out, oh, you know what? I'm going to enforce tariffs against Mexico, and we're gonna start at 5%. And that's gonna start in June. As long as Mexico continues to allow drugs and human trafficking and all this nonsense coming through the border, they're going to start paying for it. Trump is applying economic sanctions on Mexico. All right. And then he said, we'll start at 5%, then we'll go 15, 20, 25%. And they will eventually be paying 25% tariffs if they do not get their act together. If they do not stop allowing these people to come through our country, flood us with migrants, with drugs, with disease, with weapons, with all the other stuff that goes with it, if they don't stop, it is going to cost them hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of time. So Trump lays down the law. And of course, his enemies freak out. Oh, Trump is going to get us in a trade war with Mexico, one of our biggest trading partners. He's starting another trade war. We've already got a trade war with China, and we're going to lose that, and we're going to have a trade war with Mexico, and we're going to lose that. Oh, this is terrible. All right. So it was less than, I think, 4 hours before Mexico was on the phone talking to Trump, begging to set up a meeting today with the White House to, hey, let's work out a deal, something that's going to work for all of us. We don't want to go down this road. We'll work with you. We need to like fix this problem in a way that's going to work for everybody. Mexico panicked. They freaked out because they know dang well what those tariffs would cost them. And Trump is tweeting this morning. He's basically saying, look, Mexico is run by drug cartels. It's run by drug lords. It is human trafficking, weapons trafficking, drug trafficking. They need to clean up their act. They need to take this crime problem seriously. They need to prosecute the criminals and put law and order back in their country. Trump is telling Mexico, I want to make Mexico great again, and it's going to cost you if you refuse to cooperate with my plan. Trump wants Mexico to get rid of their criminal element that is running their country. Trump literally wants to make Mexico great again. Now, let's talk about and now work something out. Mexico is going to bend the knee. There's no question who is in control of this. Trump has all the leverage, and he still has not played his ace. His ace in the hole is, we'll shut down the border. We will close all ports of entry. We'll shut down the border. He is not playing that card. He is playing economic sanctions against Mexico. Now, it was not lost on Justin Trudeau what had just happened with Trump in Mexico. I don't think it's a coincidence that Vice President Mike Pence is in Canada. He was in Canada yesterday talking with Trudeau. I'm sorry, I found this stuff hilarious. Trudeau is talking with Vice President Mike Pence yesterday afternoon. Trudeau is telling Pence that he's going to correct him, and he is going to make sure that, well, what Trudeau is basically saying is he is going to hold Pence and take him to task for Indiana's stance on abortion. Because the state of Indiana passed a law right? And it was upheld by the Supreme Court, mandating that baby parts be buried. And this is what Justice Clarence Thomas was talking about, and they made a ruling on that, upholding Indiana's abortion laws. So Trudeau is going to get in Mike Pence's face about Indiana's stance on abortion, right? He is ready to rip Mike Pence a new one for his Christian, Bible-thumping stance on abortion. And as he's getting ready to do that, Trump announces, you know what? Mexico's not going to play with us. We're going to slap tariffs on them. How do you think Justin Trudeau feels this morning? Knowing that Trump is so ruthless and so serious about cracking down on corruption that he's willing to put tariffs on Mexico. You think he won't put tariffs on Canada? I guarantee you he'll put tariffs on Canada. If Canada does not stop screwing around, if they do not get their migration problem under control, if Trudeau does not stop messing around, he is going to end up in a very bad situation. And if you don't think he was paying attention to what Trump just did to Mexico, I guarantee you he was paying attention. And he is probably soiling his pants this morning over what happened. What Trump did with Mexico and the tariffs sent a message to all of the world. If Trump is willing to put tariffs on his closest neighbor and trading partner because they're screwing things up and they're not taking things seriously, how do you think China is going to feel about that? How do you think Iran feels about that? North Korea? How do you think Europe feels about that? All these people out there who think that they are going to continue to rob America, the piggy bank of the world, they have been put on notice. Donnie ain't playing. Donnie is not playing. He is going to hold them all accountable, and they are going to do what is right. And Trump is all about fair trade, but he is not going to let us get ripped off anymore. And that is the message with the tariffs. All right. Notes. I don't want to forget anything. I told you I have a lot of stuff to cover. All right. Let's talk about what's going on in Iran. So, State Department spokeswoman announced that they have had a lot of success with economic sanctions against the Iranian regime. And Iran's economy is so devastated and there is so much inflation, they can't afford to financially support terrorism anymore. So Hezbollah and Hamas and other terrorist organizations that Iran sponsors are all running out of money. I would not be surprised if Hezbollah has a GoFundMe account set up and they're trying to raise money now. Economic sanctions are a powerful tool that people do not understand. And Trump, as a businessman, as a successful billionaire, understands very well the power of economic sanctions. By putting economic sanctions back on Iran, he has crippled them financially to the point where they can't afford to support terrorism anymore. And look, it's only a matter of time before the current regime in Iran collapses and it's replaced by someone who will work with, who will institute true democracy and who will institute freedom and listen to the people and give the people the freedom that they've been begging for. The Iranian people are good people. They have been oppressed by a horrible regime that has been backed by the deep state. Deep state lost power when Trump got elected. And all of deep state's regimes are being swept away. Not by war, by economic sanctions. How did Trump get Kim Jong-un to start talking about denuclearization? Economic sanctions. He is continuing to put economic sanctions on North Korea, on China, tariffs, on Iran. Anyone who is a bad actor, who is oppressing their people, who is allowing corruption, allowing people to be trafficked, those people are facing economic sanctions, and they're going to continue to pay the price until they get right, get serious, get rid of corruption, clean up their government, and give people the human rights that they deserve. And Trump is doing this primarily through economic sanctions. All these people out there on social media who are screaming that Trump is going to get us into a war, we're going to have regime change, the CIA is going to come in and assassinate leaders. Look what happened in Venezuela. Same thing in Venezuela. Economic sanctions. You have a corrupt regime in Venezuela. Pompeo and Pence and Trump have been allowing economic sanctions to work. That regime will eventually crumble and fall. It'll be replaced by a regime that will give people freedom, restore their economy, restore their faith in the rule of law, and it's all being done with economic sanctions. No wars, no assassinations. CIA does not get to play their games anymore. I hate to tell you, but the deep state is toast. The deep state has been disempowered. Trump is using foreign policy and economic sanctions to cripple bad actors and corrupt governments around the world. And you watch, by the end of his 2 terms in office, you're going to be living in a completely different world. A lot of the corruption, a lot of the human trafficking, the weapons trafficking, all of this, the wars, the senseless wars started by the deep state to continue the human suffering and to make rich all these trillionaires, that is coming to an end. When Trump came down that escalator and when he won the election, those people lost power, and Trump is showing what can be done through economic sanctions, mostly. All right. Speaking of the deep state, some of you on Periscope, you've heard this already. Those of you on YouTube, you did not. I want to talk a little bit about Chris Wray and Gina Haspel. So there's all this speculation out there that Chris Wray can't be trusted. Chris Wray is a deep state plant. Chris Wray, he's not cooperating with Barr. All the interviews and things that I've read from Barr, not from so-called intelligence insiders, from the Attorney General himself, he is signaling he trusts Chris Wray. He's working with Chris Wray. Chris Wray has been cooperating with him and giving him the information he needs. Now, I will say this. You're going to hear from Congress, maybe Devin Nunes, maybe Mark Meadows, maybe Jim Jordan, and people like that. You're going to hear frustration from them toward Chris Wray. Why? Because they want information from him, and Chris Wray may not want to give it to them. Well, that means he's hiding information. That means he doesn't want transparency. He's not going to cooperate with investigators. No. This is what it means. Anything that is given to Devin Nunes for the House Intelligence Committee is also given to Adam Schiff. And Adam Schiff is a leaker. And Chris Wray knows that Adam Schiff is a leaker. And so does Attorney General Barr. Any information that Chris Wray or Attorney General Barr gives to anyone in Congress is going to be leaked to the New York Times and the Washington Post, and it will be at the president's detriment. The reason why those guys are not giving information to Congress is because they don't want it leaked. Congress is notorious for leaking information they're not supposed to. So my suspicion is if there is a reluctance to cooperate with Congress on the part of Attorney General Barr or Chris Wray or Gina Haspel, it's not because they are afraid of transparency. It's because they don't want information getting leaked, which will then get out to the press and hurt the president. All right. Barr is the one who is taking the information from Chris Wray, from Gina Haspel, from Pompeo, from all the other agencies, from the Defense Department. Barr is taking it. He is going to use it to help clear up the questions he has from a prosecutorial standpoint, and then make public whatever is necessary to be made public. Through the Attorney General, not through Congress. Because Congress will screw it up. And, as I pointed out on Periscope the other day, you know, if you look at the Trump administration, you have people like Ben Carson, director of HUD, and you've got Perry, who is the director of energy, and you've got Betsy DeVos, director of Secretary of Education. All right, Those agencies, those departments, they've had their directors for a long time. But if you look on the other side of the ledger of Trump's administration, military, Homeland Security, DOD, intelligence agencies, there's been a lot of turnover and flux in those departments and agencies. That tells you where the problems are. The problems historically have been in military, Homeland Security, intelligence agencies, because that's where the deep state operates. Deep state doesn't typically operate in the Department of Education all that much, or Department of Housing and Urban Development. The deep state is heavily involved in intelligence, Defense Department, national security, right? There's a lot of turnover and flux because, unfortunately, Trump had some people in those positions, H.R. McMaster and other people, who could not be trusted. So they had to go. Sean Spicer, Reince Priebus, and the list goes on. It took Trump 9 months to decide who was going to be his FBI director. He was inaugurated in January. Chris Wray was appointed in September. It took Trump the better part of 9 months to vet all these people before he could find an FBI director to fill that position. That should tell you something. And Chris Wray has been there for 20 months as the FBI director. Now, look at all the people who have resigned or been fired, General Mattis, and other people. During Trump, Rex Tillerson, all the people that have come and gone in Trump's administration, and Chris Wray is still there at FBI. You know that Trump doesn't have a problem firing people. If he wants them gone, if they're not effective, if they're not efficient, if they're not doing the job, Trump will get rid of them. Why has Trump not gotten rid of Chris Wray? If Chris Wray is such a deep state person, why has Trump not gotten rid of him, number one? Number two, why have all these top upper echelon people in the FBI been fired while Chris Wray has been the director? Chris Wray has hollowed out the FBI while he's been there. All these corrupt people who were illegally spying on Trump, they're all gone. Every one of them. And a lot of them at the DOJ too. If Chris Wray is part of the deep state, why is he wholesale removing large components of the deep state from the FBI? Doesn't add up. It doesn't add up. And that tells me that Chris Wray is not part of the deep state. You just look at the data points and it doesn't make sense that Chris Wray can't be trusted. And Attorney General Barr has had nothing but good things to say about Chris Wray. I don't care what Joe DeGeneres says. I don't care what all these other people say about Chris Wray. You know, he's not cooperating, he's hiding information. I don't care. I look at the data and I look at what the Attorney General says and look at the fact that Trump has not fired him. That tells me Chris Wray can probably be trusted. And until Trump tells us, or Attorney General Barr says Chris Wray is a piece of crap, we need to get rid of him, I'm on board with Chris Wray. I don't think we have any problems at all. Gina Haspel. All right, I talked about this on Periscope the other day, but for those of you on YouTube who missed that broadcast, Gina Haspel, although it took Trump 9 months to fill the FBI director job, it actually took him a year to fill the CIA director job. And I would argue that the CIA director is the one position that Trump worries about more than any other position in his cabinet. And I'll tell you why I say that. Besides Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo, those two guys are the people that the president trusts the most. Sorry, in his cabinet. I think he trusts people like Stephen Miller greatly. I think he has a lot of trust for Mike Pence and Pompeo. Just look at the way that they are his ambassadors. They go all over the world, visiting all these leaders, representing him, his policies, doing his work, doing his bidding. I don't think there are two people in the administration Trump trusts more than Pence and Pompeo. Now, when Trump was picking people for his cabinet, he replaced all of the intelligence community directors except NSA. He kept Admiral Rogers in at NSA because he knew Rogers could be trusted. All the other intelligence community directors were all replaced, except Rogers. CIA was critical because we know the CIA has been a very, very bad boy over the last 50 years. CIA has gotten us into a lot of wars, caused a lot of problems, and Trump knew if he was going to be successful, he had to have the right person in as head of the CIA. So he took the one person that he trusted, Mike Pompeo, and said, I'm going to put you in at CIA. And we're going to use you as a placeholder as a CIA head until we figure out who is going to be the permanent CIA head. And he took Rex Tillerson, CEO of ExxonMobil, and said, what we need to accomplish with Secretary of State right now is we need to make friends with some leaders in the Middle East, the Saudis and Qatar, and we need to change some foreign policy. So he found a guy in Rex Tillerson who had street credibility. He was well known. Rex Tillerson was able to do what he had to do. Tillerson, as a CEO of Exxon, was intimately familiar with personnel management. Tillerson gutted the State Department. The 7th floor State Department, gone. He fired all these people from the State Department, got rid of large components of the deep state. As soon as Tillerson's work with helping set the stage in the Middle East and get rid of a bunch of corrupt people in the State Department was done, Tillerson was gone. Trump then moves Pompeo to State Department, Secretary of State, and he hires Gina Haspel as CIA director. But Pompeo was CIA director for a year. It took them a year to find a CIA director that they could trust. Gina has been at CIA now for, well, let's see, Pompeo was there for a year, so she's been there ever since Pompeo was swapped out. And I do not think Trump would have put anybody in any of those cabinet positions as head of an intelligence agency that he did not absolutely trust. And if he found out that they were doing something wrong, he would get rid of them like that. I don't think Trump would hesitate to fire any of them if he had any concern that they were going to be a problem. Trump knows how important all of this is. He knows he has to have people that he can trust at the top of all these agencies, NSA, CIA, Defense Department, FBI, DOJ. He has to have people he can trust. Controlling the top of those agencies is absolutely critical. And Trump is not a dummy. He is not going to put somebody in there and let them stay there if they're going to hurt him or hurt what is his agenda. So I think, this is my position, I believe we should just trust Trump's judgment and believe that he's going to do what is in the best interest of all of us. All right. I am just about coming to the end, but I got a couple of more things I want to talk about. One of which is I am not on Parler. I do not parlez-vous français. I am not on Parler, that social media platform that everyone that is moving to, the conservatives are all like, oh, get on Parler, get on Parler. Ooh. No, I'm not on that platform. Although, somebody is on that platform impersonating me. Gee, I wonder who that is. Same person who's created all these fake Twitter accounts of me. I'm not on Parler. Do not follow my account on Parler because I don't have one. I'm not there. Look, I have way too many social media platforms I'm already on, and I have no more headspace for any more social media platforms. I can't do it. I'm already on social media platforms. I have accounts there, and I can't do anything with them because I don't have any time. I mean, if you want to go there, go there. I'm not there. Do not follow the account that looks like Praying Medic on Parler. It's not me. It's probably Zero Hour, who is the one who creates all these fake accounts because, well, he doesn't have a life, so he has to pretend he's me. All right. I am going to be releasing a book pretty soon. And it's not a Q book. Although the manuscript for the Q book is finished, so is a manuscript for my first novel. And we do not have a cover design yet for the Q book, but we do have a cover design for the novel. Actually, we designed the cover a long time ago. I started writing this book 6 years ago, and it has been a process writing this book. But my first novel is finished. I'm actually going to go through and read the final manuscript one more time today and make some little changes. But I have a novel coming out, and it's going to be a very interesting novel. I have read this story a million times, and I still cry and get very teary-eyed, and I have to walk away from it at points because it has a heavy emotional component. That the story involves a woman who is a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. She grows up to be an adult who has multiple personalities. And in the story, you get to meet some of her personalities. You get to go inside the soul of a person who has multiple personalities. And you get to observe the kind of behavior that these people go through. I was inspired to do this because I've been working with, and I have a lot of friends who have multiple personalities, and I've been helping these people go through the healing process. And this book is about healing, emotional trauma. But it's told in a way that is very engaging. There's a lot of humor. There is romance. It is part fantasy. There are giants. There are dragons. There are evil people. There are good people. There's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of a psychological thriller. It's a little bit romance. That book will be coming out very soon. And I don't know when we're going to have it published, and it's not available for pre-order because when you are a self-published author, pre-order is a nightmare. So when it's out, it'll be out. I'll put out links to it. Hope to have it out in the next week, I hope. Following on the heels of the novel will be the first Q book. That'll come pretty soon afterward. So don't worry, it's on the way. All right, final thing. So our president is flying to Europe this weekend. He's going to the UK, and then he's going to be in France. He'll be at Normandy on the anniversary of D-Day on June 6th. But I think he's leaving tomorrow. There is a lot of tension because of the spying that was done on the president during the campaign and the fact that the UK was involved in that spying, and Italy was involved, and Australia was involved. And these countries begged Trump not to declassify this information because they had something to hide. And there are a lot of corrupt people who would like this information not to come out. I have a number of friends who have had prophetic dreams about attempts to hurt the president. And some of them have specific revelation about attempts to hurt the president when he goes to Europe. So your assignment is to be praying, interceding, making declarations, go to the court of heavens, do whatever you have to do. We need to thwart any attempts to harm the president and his family this weekend. I would seriously, I'm asking you all to be praying for the president every single day that he is gone. From the day he leaves till the day he returns to Washington, I'm asking you to pray for his safety, that we need to thwart any attempt to harm him, that we need to expose all the plans of the enemy, any plans to harm the president, we want to pray that they would be exposed and stopped. And do not stop praying until he gets back here on American soil. All right, that is all I have. Pray every day. Pray every day for the president. I don't have any intelligence information on threats or anything like that. I do get messages from people who have dreams where they see bad things happening to the president. And our job is to pray. And all right, that's it. I'm going to let you all go. I got to figure out how to end the broadcast on YouTube. Have a good weekend. Keep the president in prayer. Keep Denise and I in prayer. Love you all. And catch you on next broadcast. see. How do I gotta figure out how to end this?